Law Talk with Nick Maruchak, thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won. One of my favourite segments is Law Talk, and joining me this morning is Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Sean.
We've got callers already, but only a couple. We're really keen to hear from you if you have any legal issues to discuss this morning. Any questions of Nick, and we'll get you on air. 133 882. You can text on 0487 999 882. And I believe Adrian is on the line and waiting. Good morning, Adrian.
Morning, guys. How are we?
Good, mate. Go ahead with your question for Nick.
Oh, g'day, Nick. Nick, I've been having a battle with AirAsia, very one-sided battle over about 15 months, over what was a completely wrong itinerary, which led us to, well, not being stuck in Jakarta, but somewhat being stuck in Jakarta and having to book a flight that we'd already had booked that we'd missed because of AirAsia's negligence. And email is the only way to contact this company, and to be honest, the replies you get, it may as well be a photo of the CEO's upturned middle finger, you know, because you get nowhere over many months. And I went to Consumer Protection, and it's probably 12 months ago, and we're still fighting.
So what the itinerary? Can you just tell me what exactly was the error in the itinerary, and what kind of losses did you suffer as a result of that error?
Well, the itinerary had us leaving Perth 12:15 a.m. with a connecting flight out of Jakarta. So when we got to the airport, we looked at the board and the flight was 1:50 a.m. And I thought, well, that's okay, fine, that's no good, but there might have been a technical issue. So I went up to check in, and I showed the itinerary to the check-in lady, and she said, that's weird, this flight always leaves at 1:50. So she went and talked to her manager, or she did or she didn't, came back and, you know, pushed us on, said just go to the check-in desk, AirAsia desk in Jakarta, and they'll put you on the next available flight. Well, no. They passed the buck as well, and we had to pay for that flight. So on talking to Consumer Protection, I just very straightforward said, you know, do I have a case? And Tom said, mate, absolutely, they've screwed you over. You need to fight this. So this has been going on, since late July last year. I did receive an email from AirAsia saying that they'd taken responsibility. We're happy to refund you the money. Please provide your details, which I did. They responded saying we've received those details. That was the 28th of May. So that was another case of telling me what I wanted to hear. Still haven't seen any money.
Yeah. So under Australian consumer law, they have a duty to provide their services with due care and skill. So they have obviously breached that because the itinerary was mistaken. So you're entitled to, so what would, we just have to clarify what you would be entitled to. So you want to claim your ticket?
Well, it's $638.99 was what we had to pay to effectively rebook those flights.
Okay. Did you suffer any other losses, such as changes to your accommodation or anything else?
No, I'm not worried about that. No,
okay.
I just all I want is I'd like that money back. Yeah, I mean, if they'd offered a voucher, I would have been happy. But the fact is, they don't seem to care, and there's no way you can't talk to anybody. I don't understand how they're allowed to function. And allowed to operate in the country without having any resolution process.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
Yeah. So if you've tried and you haven't got anywhere, then potentially starting court proceedings may be the next step. So you can start a claim in the Magistrates court, a minor case claim. Claims under $10,000 will mean that if you win or lose, you don't have to pay AirAsia's legal costs, so that won't be hanging over your head. It's quite simple to commence a minor case claim in the Magistrates court. You just you just fill it out and then get a process server to serve it on AirAsia's head office. And when they get that, it's very likely that they will take this more seriously, and you'll probably settle it. And one of the steps in the minor case claim is you go to a mediation. It's called a pre-trial conference. So you file your claim, AirAsia will file a response, and then you'll have a mediation with a court registrar, and that's where most cases settle. They don't end up going to hearing. But I also note that there's been some talk from the Albanese government about changing the aviation industry and making it fairer. They've introduced the aviation white paper. So I'm hoping that if that gets introduced, they'll make it a lot easier to avoid situations like this.
Okay, so even getting to mediation, what's that likely to cost me? Because we're not talking a lot of money. It's more the fact that you can't. They can just brush you off. They wait you out. That's more the issue here. I mean, I don't want to spend $1,000 to get $638 back.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is there a way to shake the tree? To actually, any other way to shake the tree to actually get something happening? Because, consumer protection, their hands are tied. He obviously can't do any more than I can do, which I think is crazy in itself.
Yeah. So the filing fee for a claim under 10 grand is $189. What you can do to shake the tree is prepare a Form 4 minor case procedure claim, fill it out, have that as a draft and send it to them and say, this is what I'm going to file with the court if you don't respond. So that may cause them to take things more seriously. But then if they don't respond after that, keep records of all the correspondence you've had. And when you do file the claim and you pay the $190, you can recover that from them as well. So you add that onto your $600 so loss. Then you also get there'll be $111 you have to pay to get the bailiff to serve it. So you can ask the court to serve the claim for you. And again, you'll recover that from them. So they're the type of costs you're looking at just to kind of initiate the process if you have to.
Okay.
Thanks very much for your call, Adrian. I think Adrian's claim is entirely reasonable, and he's not after blood either, is he? I mean, he's basically just after the extra expense of having to rebook flights.
Yeah, that's right. And I like the idea of this aviation white paper coming through. I feel like that's going to have a lot more protections for consumers, and if it just makes it a lot easier to deal with situations like this where if that comes through, then consumers won't have to go to court and go through all that.
I wonder how many Australians have been caught up in this sort of issue in the last couple of years, especially with the likes of Qantas rebooking, overbooking. What sort of responsibilities do those airlines have to deal with those issues? There is obviously some consumer law. Do they have have a responsibility to deal with it quickly, expeditiously? Do they have to actually answer you if you get onto them, or is there nothing much you can do?
Look, they don't. There's no requirement for them to be professional and courteous and respond quickly. So that's not enshrined in the consumer law at the moment. The aviation white paper might make it. I believe might have some points there to kind of increase. There is some stuff on training there as well. Yep. So that will improve the situation. But currently, when it comes to the terms of service in all of the airline, when you book, it always says the flight is never guaranteed. So, I mean, that's expected. But when they're doing stuff like overbooking and dodgy stuff like that, I think that crosses the line. Well,
that's different, isn't it? Because it's not just as a mechanical fault. No, we all want them to stop the plane taking off if there's a mechanical fault. It's actually that they're just being greedy and overbooking the flight so that there's no way there'll be a possible spare seat anywhere that someone isn't paying for.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that hopefully those measures, so if someone at the moment before this new law comes in gets affected by that, they have the right to a refund. So that's kind of what they can do at the moment. But I believe the white paper will have more clear overbooking policy requirements and setting limits on how much airlines can overbook flights. So that's one of the things that the Albanese government is hoping to fix in their white paper. And I believe there's stuff about mandating that airlines provide clear information about the likelihood of being bumped at check-in and better compensation schemes in place.
133 882 if you've got a legal question for Nick this morning. Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal has joined us in the studio and is ready to answer your questions. We'll take some more of those after the break. We're back with Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. We have got a couple of texts come in with legal questions. Nick, what are the legalities of poisoning roots from a neighbour's tree roots that are damaging my driveway? That's a question. Well, maybe I won't give the the name of that person, they'll know who they are.
Okay, so if roots are encroaching on your property, you can cut them off because that's your land. Just be careful that if anything encroaches from public land, some trees are protected. So certain trees have preservation status, so you can't damage. So you just have to be careful in that. But this sounds like it's coming from a neighbour's property, so cut them off. With the poison, just make sure the poison doesn't. When you obviously make sure the poison is fit for purpose and legal to use, obviously. And when you do use, so something from Bunnings or something, but when you do use it, make sure it doesn't then end up damaging the roots or other plants on your neighbour's property. So just be careful of the poison. I probably wouldn't use the poison. I'll probably use...
Cut them off?
Cut them off.
Don't kill the entire tree is what you're telling me.
Yeah, because as soon as you start damaging their property, that's when you've created a nuisance or a trespass to their land. And that's when they can sue you for the damage to their stuff. So poison might be maybe a bit risky, and maybe cutting off might be better, but I'm sure gardeners and other people may have better ideas on how to do it. So that's the balance you need to strike.
Neighbourhood fence disputes, I imagine there are more of those going on than anyone could possibly imagine. There's questions around trees hanging over and dropping things in gutters, and then suddenly gutters get a lot of water in them and you've got water issues in your house. How much of the court's time do those sorts of disputes chew up?
Well, I think, the Magistrates Court in general is where you go for these kind of disputes, and they're fairly busy. So I think it's quite, they're quite busy at the moment, I'm sure quite a lot. So the good news is, like I said before, they force parties to a mediation really early. So very few cases end up going to trial. And the trial's the part where you bring your witnesses in, you cross-examine them, you have your debate in front of the judge. Most of the time, you'll come into court with this mediation. It'll take a couple of hours and it's done. And I would say 90% of cases, my estimate is, will settle at this mediation stage. So that is very good with the courts. We need to have a system to resolve these disputes and have an independent arbitrator, but getting them resolved quickly and with a deal, with the help of a court officer is how most claims resolve. So.
And always better to go to your neighbour first, of course, and see if you can sort it out before a court process. We have got a text there, another one relating to tree roots. Can you ask about the 15 metres of ground below the surface of our properties that we own? To the best of my memory, it excludes valuable minerals like gold, etc. It certainly does. That belongs to the government.
That's right.
However, I wonder in relation to tree roots trespassing into our property, thank you, from Jane of High Wycombe, I guess how deep can these tree roots be? How deep can you cut them off? Is it all the way to the core of the earth, Nick, or is there a limit to it?
I think it's basically just within the. I would. The starting point would be, what is fair use of the land, right? To enjoy your land, what do you need? How much space do you need, and how far can you go? So I would just go whatever is reasonable to enjoy fair use of your land. And I can't give you an answer but I think a few meters, if maybe 10 meters would probably be my guess. But you certainly don't own the minerals. That's in legislation to say if you find gold on your land, government owns that. And
no one's digging down more than 10 metres to get rid of some tree roots. Bill is waiting patiently on the line. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. I just got a quick, it's not a quick question. I split up from my missus. We've been in a long-term relationship since we were kids. In 2005. In 2006, we got back together, and I got a good opportunity to go back into the rail industry, and I had a very good business that went to about 2017, where she did the books, and did the books. She told me we had nothing, and she had 300 and something thousand superannuation. I had nothing. She didn't pay the apartment off that we meant to. She just had interest-free, she told me there's one bill to pay, and she resigned that day, and I found out afterwards that she'd even put in for redundancy. She was taking all the money out through the family trust. She had two of them, and as I said, I was 45,000 in debt. I paid all that, and then I don't know what happened after that. I just went to a room, and I hardly come out. I think I was getting drugged a bit because she had pills from her mother, I think, but that passed away with cancer, and she brought him back from New Zealand by mistake. I just don't know what to do. I'm left with nothing.
Yeah, Bill, that sounds...
And I had 45,000 super. I've been reading books on the trust and everything, like 5 of them 3 times. So I'm not really, wasn't very good at school, but I could do other things. And
Bill, we've got a few calls on the line, mate, so I might let Nick give you a small piece of advice there before we move on to the next person.
Yeah, so Bill, it sounds like you've gone through a family law dispute, and when you separate from your ex-wife or your de facto partner, the court basically will divide the assets in a fair manner. So the court will put all the assets together in a pool, and they'll make a decision on how much each person gets based on how much they contributed, how much they brought into the relationship, how much they contributed during the relationship, and other factors. So I can give you a quick call off air to give you a few pointers on how to do this, but basically, if you're in de facto separated for the last 2 years, you're entitled to a fair division of the assets.
Thanks, Bill. Hold on the line there, and the producers will get your details. We've also got a text on the line. Hi, 6PR and Nick. I had a small gathering at the weekend and received a noise complaint from my neighbour. It was only 11 p.m. What are the repercussions if I don't adhere to this complaint? What's the worst that can happen? Okay,
so the council would probably give you some sort of fine, noise complaint fine, and so you'll need to pay potentially a fine under the council law. Worst can happen. Worst case, if it keeps happening, it's more serious. I think they can probably prosecute you under some legislation and take you to the magistrates' court.
Coppers could come around?
Coppers can come and seize the... I've heard of situations where they seize the device, the speaker. The speaker. They take that because that's, and then they'll take that off premises. I've heard of situations like that happening, and then you obviously get it back later. So yeah, they're the things that can happen. So,
and do they charge you with a criminal offence or some sort of civil offence?
I believe it would be an offence under the Local Government Act.
Okay, local government offence.
Yeah.
All right, so keep your party noise down. Didn't get the name on that text, but you're probably better off coming to an agreement with the neighbours. Nick Maruchak, thanks very much for joining me. We've run out of time to take any more calls. Appreciate you coming to the studio as always.
Thank you, Sean.
That was Nick from MKI Legal with Law Talk, and I'm sure he'll be back next week.